Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. How are you doing, Diane?
I'm good.
Yes. How
I
you feeling? How's your arm?
it's just a little bit sore because I got vaccinated on Thursday. How about you?
I'm a little bit sore. I got vaccinated on March 11th, which is actually Tom Hanks Day. That's what I want to change it into. I'm starting the push. I'm not starting it, but yeah, I want to call it. I want to call the anniversary of the pandemic March 11th, Tom Hanks Day,
Yeah,
and I want it to be a day of gratitude and reflection.
it is. It is. I the same thing. It's so bizarre to get your to get back the vaccine a year to the day from like when it was presented as a global pandemic and everybody kind of, their butts puckered up like, "Oh, this is real. This is scary."
Yeah. And to think like I'm just a thoroughly normal guy. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not 1A or 1B. I'm not old. I'm not infirm. And yet somehow or another, I was able to get a vaccine. It's kind of crazy. There was a guy, Pedro Saldivar, shout out to Pedro. Pedro, I'm going to buy him a round of drinks every time I see him from now until the sun burns out because I don't know. He and a friend have just been signing up bartenders and restaurant workers, and he's got over 300 people vaccinated in the last couple of weeks. I don't know how he did it. Like he just came into the bar where I work and he's like, "Do you want to sign up?" And I just wrote down my name and date of birth and everything like that. And he texted me the next morning saying, "Here's your appointment." I was like, "That is incredible. I don't know how he did it."
Dude, yeah, even my therapist was like, there are these websites or these groups on Facebook that are kind of doing what he was doing, like finding, unfortunately, these small town places where they don't believe in the vaccine or they think it's a hoax. So they're not
Yep.
taking it. So you get to go drive out there and take it, which is what you did. And
Mm-hmm.
don't feel bad about that, people. If they don't want it, go get it from them.
I don't feel bad in the slightest. I saw some people on social media kind of going back and forth about, don't you feel bad like you're taking the vaccine from an older person or a sick person? Like, nope, no, I do not. I'm not taking the vaccine from an older person or a sick person. I'm taking a vaccine from someone who doesn't want it.
Yep. More for us.
No guilt. I feel good about it. It's incredible to me. It's incredible to think that you can get a vaccine just a year after.
Yeah.
Early in the pandemic, they were saying, yeah, if they do it lightning fast, faster than it's ever been done, maybe it'll be in trials in 18 months. And then
Right.
here we are.
Yeah.
We're in line for it. It's a huge relief. A
Well, you
huge
just
relief.
you learn so much about it too. Like if we had never had SARS or MERS or any of that before, we'd be like 15 years out. But because SARS and MERS have happened, they were like, 20 steps ahead in the research. And so that's why it got to go through so fast, which some people still don't quite understand. I'm not here to teach them anymore. I don't care what they do. I got the I got the Johnson and Johnson in 2 weeks. I'm good at 75% effectiveness, and that is great for me. I don't work, doesn't matter.
Yep.
You, after you get your second shot, we're going to be able to start doing this in person again. And Jeremy's going to come down.
Yes.
Jeremy's going to come down and show us how to use all the pristine equipment that Corbin bought for my birthday in October, which I'm like, I can't use it. We can't get together.
Jeremy's going to build us a studio. We're going to be proper professionals.
It's going to be awesome.
No more poor country podcasters for us. Oh, no.
So let's talk about what we're doing today.
We're doing the Kinks today. I've been looking forward to doing a Kinks episode for a while. The Kinks have been like, there you go.
Right across
The Kinks. Best band name. I think it's the best band name, bar none.
Yeah.
I would argue maybe for the Clash, I would listen to that, but the Kinks is definitely like there should be 17,000 bands named the Kinks. It's
especially for their time. Like you can see it now, but like during the time that was like, like what?
Yeah. The Kinks
Filthy.
sound to me like if there hadn't been the Kinks, if I heard the name, I would think, oh, they're some down and dirty punk band that you'd see like scrawled on the wall at Fitzgerald's, like instead of one of the best-selling bands of all time.
Yeah. So why are we doing the Kinks?
Because my good friend and Patreon subscriber Jeff Lewis picked "Destroyer" by the Kinks for his episode. He won the raffle, and this is his show. Jeff is he's a geology professor at Lone Star College.
Awesome.
And he's just the most delightful guy. Like if you happen to be in a bar at the Heights, and you have the stool next to Jeff Lewis, you have hit the jackpot. just the nicest, sweetest guy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Good dude, happy to have him in my life. So we're doing Destroyer by the Kinks, and the Kinks are obviously one of the most influential bands ever, but it's strange, like the direction of their influence and the time that they came out, because they're like hot on the heels of the Beatles. And I didn't realize like how hot on the heels of the Beatles they were. Like I was reading this story that they opened for the Beatles in 1964 in, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Bournemouth, in Bournemouth.
Bournemouth?
And this was Bournemouth.
Okay.
And this is like the Beatles were already big, but they hadn't come to America yet. They hadn't become like the Beatles.
This is like
They were
pre Ed Sullivan.
yeah. I think it's pre Ed Sullivan, and it's also pre like obviously the Kinks weren't big either. They had their song "You Really Got Me," but it wasn't on the radio yet. It was just one that they played live. So apparently the Kinks go on and they play their set, and they sound very much like every British band does in 1964, trying to sound like the Beatles.
Right.
And apparently after they get off, John Lennon comes up to Ray Davies and he says, "Hey, we've lost our song list. Do you mind if we borrow yours?" Just straight up. You're ripping us off.
You're
right
ripping us off. It's like having an opener go on and do the headliner's joke.
Yeah.
Like closer.
Like this, how dare you? But then they like yeah, You Really Got Me goes to number one like real quick. Like it just rockets to number one, and then all of a sudden the Kinks are for a hot minute kind of in the same category as the Beatles and the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Which had to be quite a moment for them. And then things kind of went cockeyed from there.
Yeah. Which, looking back, and we'll tell the story of why, it's a weird blessing in disguise, but we don't know that. Had it not happened, would they have just gotten like, people were like, you're too much like the Beatles. We already have the Beatles. Or did it give them time to collect themselves and then become themselves? Tell them why we're talking about that. What knocked them off track?
So many things knocked them off track.
Yeah.
Their drug use, the feuds between the brothers. They got banned from performing in America, which I didn't know until a week ago. They got banned from performing in America for 5 years during their peak, which is a crazy story. Ray Davies quits the band in the mid-70s on stage. He attacks his manager and his music publisher on the same day. He has multiple divorces, a tumultuous relationship. It's just a mess. The Kinks story is just an absolute mess.
It's so crazy. You mean like two brothers in a band doesn't work out?
Apparently not.
How many times are we going to see this happen? What's so funny is how many times do we see sisters in a band and that always seems to work out okay? What's going on with you dudes? Like we got the Kim Deal and Kelly Deal. We got Nancy and Ann and Nancy Hart. Am I saying that right? Ann and Nancy,
yep.
Not Hart. Their last name's not Hart, is it? Wilson.
Ann and Nancy Wilson. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dianne.
Too much testosterone, to borrow a line from Sean Rouse. Too much testosterone. He's definitely going to jail.
Nice.
This is a fun song though, because it comes later in the Kinks catalog. I think Destroyer comes out in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And this was sort of like after people had younger bands had discovered the Kinks and sort of gone off on their own. Like when you listen to the Kinks now, it's hard for me not to hear the Buzzcocks and not to hear like kind of like the early punk, like the beginnings of that, very much in the Kinks, because it's just so simple. It's just three chords and a little bit of screaming, and then of course apparently the Kinks chassis is also what you build heavy metal music off of as well.
Yeah,
but that's my ear can't describe that one for you. But it's the Kinks are, I don't know where to start with them, except I guess at the beginning when he got his guitar. And this is a sad story, but when Ray Davies was 13, his 13th birthday, his sister, he and his brother Dave are the only two boys of a family of, I think it was 8. So
10.
2 boys and 10.
10. They were, well, they said it rounded out their family of 10. So yeah, 8 kids, and him and his brother were number 7 and number 8.
Yeah, so they're the youngest and the only boys. So they were obviously spoiled by their raft of older sisters. And on Ray Davies' 13th birthday, one of his sisters, who was 30 at the time, gave him his first guitar. Gave him his Spanish guitar. and she loved to go out dancing. So she went out to the Lyceum Theater that night, and he says that he remembers watching her, go down the lane as he's, going through his first chord progressions. His sister goes to the Lyceum Ballroom and she's dancing, and she had a heart condition, and she has a heart attack, and she dies in the arms of a stranger on the dance floor, which is a pretty romantic and dramatic way to go, and a pretty romantic and dramatic way for one of the biggest rock stars in the world to be born. So that's the guy that we're dealing with, and that's also the guy whose biggest hit in America, at least, is "Come Dancing." So I don't think that that's an accident at all. All the joy and the beauty that's in that song, I'm sure he's definitely pulling from the passing of his sister. So I don't mean to kick it off with sadness, but that's definitely sort of the mindset that this guy is in. Like, his journey begins there, and takes off. But this is fun. The Destroyer is a really fun song. Let's just get into the lyrics. So this is Destroyer by the Kinks. Met a girl called Lola and took her back to my place. So right out of the gate, the Kinks' best known song is, of course, Lola.
Lola.
So he's revisiting that from the get-go, which is so much fun. Just to like dust off a character from the old catalog and bring her back. Met a girl called Lola, took her back to my place. Feeling guilty, feeling scared, hidden cameras everywhere. Stop, hold on, stay in control. So this is a scared dude. Like, he's touching on a lot of things there. Like, is he revisiting does this character in Destroyer not yet know that Lola is a man, or is this 15 years on and he's well aware that Lola is a man, but he's still nervous about it? Or is he just nervous about taking a girl back home?
Yeah, there's so many questions, and we would think of this song differently if we didn't already know Lola, if we didn't know the history from the original song. So yeah, well, let's keep getting into it. We find out about this guy's mental stability pretty quick.
It is not good. I really like the idea of hidden cameras everywhere, because that's not, I don't take that literally. I'm just like that's sort of like when you're in that moment when you've just taken a sexy stranger back to your place, and it's like your mind is recording everything. They're just like you start to your senses are heightened, so you start to remember every detail. I think that's a really clever way of saying it.
Well, so I'm just going to butt in real quick. I got some info from songfacts.com. It said Ray Davies channeled his American experience into Give People What They Want album, which was largely inspired by the American media, which relied on sensationalism and scandal for ratings. Destroyer shows that overstimulation and a flood of information makes the guy in the song completely bonkers. There's even a line, hidden cameras everywhere, because he feels like he's constantly being watched, a fear many Americans have. And this is 1981. Like, nothing has changed. We're still like this.
Mm-hmm. And it's only getting worse, because obviously we're pushing every major event in our life, or even minor event in our life, onto our social media platforms. Like, we're not only being watched, but we're demanding that we be watched.
We're actively participating in being watched, and Big Brother is now real.
And we're upset if we're not getting watched. Like, there's just nothing worse than posting something on social media and getting like a limp reaction. Like, no, look at me.
Yeah.
Look at me more approvingly.
And like, if this song was written now, you would be afraid that she has an OnlyFans account and that you're being taped.
Keep the dude's faces out of your OnlyFans account. This is my favorite part of the song. Girl, I want you here with me, but I'm really not as cool as I'd like to be. First of all, that line is a straight up harken back to their second hit, All Day and All the Night. Right. And it's even like, it's the chord progression seems to be similar to me. Like, he sings it the exact same way. Girl, I want you here with me all of the time.
Yeah, they sample their own song. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, I just absolutely love it. Girl, I want you here with me, but I'm really not as cool as I'd like to be. Oh, every man in the world can relate to that one. Am I good enough for you? Am I really the one that you want? That happens all the time. Because there's a red under my bed, and there's a little yellow man in my head, and there's a true blue inside of me that keeps stopping me, touching you, watching you, loving you. So yeah, drug-ridden paranoia.
So I'm stupid, and if the internet hadn't explained to me that the red meant his little methamphetamine pill, I wouldn't have gotten it.
I wouldn't have known either.
Okay, good.
I had to look it up. I think those are the old ways of doing methamphetamines. I mean, the way you and I smoke meth is totally different.
Oh,
from the way
we got it so much easier now.
Never been around meth. I feel like it's missing. Yeah. So there's a yellow man in my head, and there's a true blue inside of me. All of his different pills. Paranoia, the destroyer. I love that chorus. I mean, that is just absolutely just a straight up, just ferocious.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like listening back to who they were in the 60s and who they were in 81. Like they went Beatles to punk, and I am here for it.
Yeah. And it's amazing because like I kind of like froze the Kinks in time a little bit in my head, where like I only figured that they were like from 1965 until 1970, and then their influence kind of came down through the years. It's really kind of strange to see. It's almost like Ray Davies saw what bands like MC5 and Buzzcocks were kind of done with his influence, and just decided to follow them a little bit. It's almost like it's almost like a snake eating a tail. Not to take any credit away from Ray Davies' own creativity, but it really does feel just like, oh, you can do that with my music? Well, let's see if I can do it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is super interesting. Well, I fell asleep and then I woke up and then I woke feeling kind of queer. Lola looked at me and said, "Oh, you look so weird." She said, "Man, there's really something wrong with you. One day you're going to self-destruct. You're up, you're down. I can't work you out. You get a good thing going, then you blow yourself out." So autobiographical. Like,
I love how the cross-dresser is telling him he's got problems.
You are one fucked up dude. Not that there's anything wrong with being a cross-dresser. There's certainly nothing wrong with being transgender.
No.
But yeah, it's a little strange when you're taking home, a random person and they're in your house and they instantly size you up and just go, "You are immensely fucked up."
Yeah, you got problems.
Yeah, this is a scary moment. Like it's not, and it's immensely fucked. Like there's pills in your bed, there's pills everywhere. Like what the hell is going on with you? This is not a messy sock drawer or beard clippings in the sink situation. You are a disaster.
Oh.
But I love that line. I love it because it's obviously autobiographical when he says, "I can't work you out. You get a good thing going, then you blow yourself out," because that's the story of the Kinks. I mean, they did it to themselves so many times.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think they got banned from performing in America. You live here. This is a very, very big place.
Yeah.
Like you can't, like, you're not just like upsetting like one club promoter and you'll never play here again. It's just like they got thrown out of America.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, apparently what happened is it's in the early 60s, I think 65, they come over for their first tour. And obviously You Really Got Me and All Day and All the Night were big hits in England, and they were starting to grow in America. But they come over and there's I think it's called like it's like a union, like the American Performing Artists or something like that. I don't know if they're still around. But one of their representatives at a Kinks gig was just really giving Ray and Dave Davies the American shit, because I think in America, the American musicians were at that point, even early on, were real sick of Englishmen coming over and stealing the thunder. Like they hated the Beatles, they hated the Rolling Stones, because they figured rock and roll is an American creation, and why are these English taking it from us? So they get in a big fight basically over that, where this guy's telling like every mop top city youth comes over here and thinks that they can break it big in America. Well, that's not going to happen. And apparently, like Ray Davies says that I don't really know what happened in the confusion, but there was some pushing, some shoving, and definitely some punching. And the next thing you know, they've been banned. They're not allowed permits to perform in America because this powerful union banned them at their peak.
Yeah. And it was more than that too. They said just the tour in general, when it started, was a disaster with erratic bookings, and like, the band was fighting. And then their tour manager, Larry Page, left them just out of the blue to go promote Sonny and Cher. And so they're just like on their own in America, fighting with the American Union. And they said, somebody just said something wrong, got in a fight, and then they got banned for like the 4 most important years of music history in the 60s. Like when all these bands like, Jimi Hendrix and like everyone was getting like wildly popular. It kept them from performing at Woodstock.
Whoa, that really would have been a game changer for them.
That's what I'm talking about. Had this not happened, this whole trajectory could have been completely different. But would it have been better, or did getting banned actually help them become themselves better back, eventually when they got, playing again? Who knows? We'll never know.
Yeah, or did it make them like this secret, dark, and threatening band? Like sometimes getting banned is the best thing that can happen to an artist. Like, why? Why is it banned? Because it's crap. There was an English comedian called Jasper Carrot that did that line. But anyway, like I do wonder about that, because it's always been sort of strange to me, like at least in my head, or the way that I've read music criticism or appreciations. Like obviously it's Elvis and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. But then it seems like over the last 20 years, like the Beach Boys have kind of crept up into that level, amongst people. And people will tell you like, oh no, have you really listened to Pet Sounds? Have you really listened to Pet Sounds? I mean, seriously listen to it.
I haven't.
And I always wondered why, me either. I always wondered why the Kinks never really rose up into that echelon as well, because it seems like they're the influence on everything gritty and dirty that we came to love about music, punk, new wave, everything like that. The Kinks seem to be the godfather of that, and I don't often hear people point to them as much as I think they should. One man's opinion.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with this band. Like, had they, you can do a lot in 4 years. Had they been able to stay in America and tour and become huge, like, would the argument not be, are you Beatles or Stones? Would it be, are you Beatles or Kinks? Like, who knows what they would have done?
Yeah, or would it split into three? You'd have like a three-headed dog there: Beatles, Kinks, or the Rolling Stones. And the Beach Boys, California. Silly boy, you self-destroyer. Silly boy, you got so much to live for, so much to aim for, so much to try for. You've blown it all with paranoia. You're so insecure, you self-destroyer. I like how he's acknowledging it, but still picking at himself.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely in that cycle of self-destruction. Like even though he's aware of it, he's still just like, you're silly, you're stupid, you got so much to do and you're fucking it all up. Like it's just a grim state of mind that I can certainly relate to.
Do you know how many male comedians I know that do this to themselves, that just shoot themselves in the foot every time they almost fucking get there because they don't trust themselves, they're insecure, they're paranoid? I would start naming you motherfuckers by names, but I'm not going to be mean. I'm just going to sit back here.
It's every single one. It's every single one. But every now and again, you run across the guy who's able to push it down and ignore it, or just doesn't want to live in that spot in his head, and that just makes me angrier at him. Like, come on, just live in the shit with the rest of us.
He's like, no, I'm gonna go make money. Bye, you guys. I just need to be all of y'all's manager and kick your asses all the way up that pole. Anyway, I lost my chance to do that years ago. You guys got to do it yourselves.
No, you're older and wiser now. You'd be better at it. You need to go to an open mic and pick out a young and cute kid and groom him in your what, reflection? No.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm trying to
those
say.
who can't do manage, I don't know.
Oh, I meant to point out at the top that I'm very hungover and highly caffeinated, so I'm going to be weird. I apologize.
Oh, okay, you seem like yourself, but let's go.
And it goes like this. Here it goes. Paranoia, the destroyer. Here it goes again. Paranoia, the destroyer. All right, things are going to get dark. Doctor, help me, please. I know you'll understand. There's a time device inside of me. I'm a self-destructing man. There's a red under my bed and a little green man in my head. And he said, you're not going crazy. You're just a bit sad because there's a man in you, gnawing you, tearing you into two. That's exactly how it feels. That's pretty much exactly
it. Yeah.
I love the conflict that's going on in him. Like, it's amazing to me. Like like we say, like he is an incredibly self-destructive guy, but he's, I don't want to say performatively self-destructive, but he did have like a couple of like serious events. Like in 73, they were allowed to tour America again, and they'd had a huge big hit with Lola, and they were one of the biggest bands in the world again. And Ray Davies is popping pills. There's a little green man in his head. He went to a doctor. The doctor literally described him. Said, here's a prescription for pills. Take these every time you feel down. Well, he's thinking about quitting the band, and on this particular day, the 15th of July, 1973, he really believes that he's going to be playing his last show ever. So he's just taking the pills. Like, this is what he literally says. They told me to take it every time I feel down, but I was feeling down every 10 minutes. So I just kept taking them over and over and
Oh,
over again. So
whoa.
he's on stage, higher than Jesus, higher than four dogs, really, really scrambled out of his brain. And he goes over to his brother, Dave, who's, feuded with all over the place. He kisses him on the cheek and then goes to the microphone and says, like, this is the last show for me. I'm quitting the Kinks. It's all over. And that's the end of the show. They take him to the hospital. He's high on drugs. He walks into the hospital and he tells the nurse, I'm Ray Davies of the Kinks and I'm dying, which is true at that point. Like, he's about to have a drug overdose. And the nurse asks him for his autograph right before, asks him for his autograph and then pumps his stomach, as you do. I guess it's that weird sort of moment. But yeah, this is the guy when he says, you got a good thing going, then you blow yourself out. That's literally what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Like, this is the guy who blew himself up on stage at his peak.
Yeah.
He's a little nuts.
To talk about, because I was having a hard time keeping it straight. We were watching a Kinks documentary and I'm like, Ray, older than Dave, the more poetic type, Dave, the baby of the family, the wild one. Like, I was having to, like, I need to write these notes down because I'm going to get them confused. The same way I cannot get the fucking Gallagher brothers right in my head. I can't do it.
You don't even need to try with the Gallagher brothers. They're basically the same person. That's why they hate each other so much.
Okay.
No, yeah, Dave was the chief singer-songwriter, although Dave could really write incredible songs himself. But yeah, Dave was definitely the younger, wilder one. Like, when Ray Davies was getting married, I think for the first time, at the wedding, Dave is the best man, and he stands up to make his best man speech, and he just announces, "I'm too pissed to make my speech." He's just absolutely hammered. So he goes upstairs with the maid of honor, and that's where one of his sisters catches him having sex with the maid of honor, having been too drunk to make his best man speech at his brother's wedding. It's horrific.
That's awesome. It's rock and roll.
I made a speech at my little brother's wedding, and I felt really bad because I didn't know. I certainly didn't know her family very well, and all I can do is insult comedy. So my whole speech was I was just gonna do like lightly insulting of my little brother because I know he can take it. Like, he's fine. Yeah. So I had a couple of good lines, but I always feel really bad about this because I kept doing like the "you look like" jokes. So like with your blonde hair and your blue eyes, you look like Hitler's chauffeur's boyfriend, which I thought was a really funny line. But then obviously, like, instantly, because there was like the shocked reaction, like, why would you even say that here? And then like ever afterwards, I'm just like, why would I drop a Hitler joke in the middle of my little brother's wedding? Like, why? What the fuck compels a person to do that?
And like his wife's like old aunt, Jewish aunt, is like, what's happening?
I know. Like, every time I think about it, it's one of those like people sometimes like I've had a lot of embarrassing moments in my comedy career, but yeah, that's the one. Like, if there's anything that I could take back, it would be that one. Like, there's just no reason for that. We could just throw that line out.
Real quick, I'm just gonna say this before I forget. When Corbin was a little boy in school, they were all said to pick some famous person from history and do a report on it. And so he picked Hitler. Like, he picked Hitler. And then he didn't know at the end, all the classes were going to do a parade down the halls dressed as their character.
Oh my God.
So little bitty Corbin dresses like Hitler and goose steps down the hall doing the Hitler salute. And I'm like, where was your mother? Like, this should not have happened. And I was like, also, is there video? So, should not have happened. Should not have been allowed to happen, but it did.
Oh my God. Well, there's no video. It's just burned into everybody's mind.
Oh, God. Only in fucking Friendswood. That would not have flown in my school.
No. God, how did the teachers hold it together? Yeah. Oh. My best friend is a teacher, and I think if that happened to one of his kids, he would have just burst out laughing. He would have burst out laughing, and then probably taken the kid into the bathroom and given him like a George Washington outfit. Like, let's rethink this, son.
Let's make you Charlie Chaplin instead. You've already got the mustache on.
Let me ask you this, kid. How's your pratfalling?
Oh, fuck, dude. All right, let's keep going.
Self-destroyer, wreck your health, destroy friends, destroy yourself. The time device of self-destruction, light the fuse and start eruption.
Wow.
That's very like it reminds me of like one of my favorite comedians is Mark Maron. We've talked about him a lot. He's got a great joke that ties into this, where he's just like, there's just always this little voice in my head that's always gonna be like, no matter how good things are going, it's always just like, you're gonna fuck it up, man. You know, you're gonna fuck it up. You're gonna fuck it up. And I just wish that voice was just a little louder than the voice that's screaming, let's fuck it up. Absolutely, like I feel that way quite a bit of the time. Like those two things are like, that's just exactly the way it feels. The time device of self-destruction, light the fuse and start eruption.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely avenues of my brain that I can go down, or behaviors that I can go into, or just like, you know, this is bad for you. You know, it's bad for you. But then there's that other voice that's just like, yeah, but you love it.
Yeah, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
You love it. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. You've just gotten home from a bartending shift. You're going to have to be up at noon to start getting some things done. But yeah, you can do another whiskey. It's fine.
Yeah.
You'll be okay. You're better when you're groggy and half drunk in the morning. No, I'm really not. But that definitely does roll through me. So I got a lot of sympathy for guys like Ray Davies, because I'm a little bit like him. No red pills, but a little bit like him. Paranoia, and it goes like this. So those are the lyrics to Destroyer, but there's still so many fun Kinks stories to tell.
Yeah, there really are.
I guess you could argue that they started the Nirvana, Pearl Jam, smash up your instruments, but they started it by smashing up each other on stage.
Yeah, and there's some weird story. I don't understand music very well, but he wasn't getting like the sound he wanted out of his amp, so he just cut it. Like he just took like a knife and like cut it open, and then it gave like the sound. I don't know how to explain any of this. I just saw it in the documentary.
Yeah, what I heard it was knitting needles that he punctured the amp with, and that's why you get that really like down and dirty.
Yeah.
And of course, apparently every other band around was just like, how did you do that? Like, you gotta have my amp. It's torn in the exact precise way.
Yes, just as so.
So they're on tour, and Dave Davies is not getting along with the drummer, a guy named Mick Avery, and so apparently at some point on the tour one night, Avery throws a suitcase at Dave Davies and hits him in the face, and it blackens out both his eyes. So the next night they get on stage, and Dave Davies wears dark sunglasses to cover up his black eyes, but he hasn't forgiven him yet. And they probably haven't, had like the talking or the come to Jesus afterwards. I guess they were avoiding each other all day. It was the first time they'd been close to each other. So after their opening song, You Really Got Me, Dave Davies goes over, yells at the drummer for the way he's drumming, and then just kicks over his drum set in the middle of the show, bringing the show to a screeching halt. So the drummer, Avery, picks up a cymbal and crashes Dave Davies over the head with it vertically. Like not like cymbal crash or frying pan. I mean, he brings it down on the edge onto his head. Dave Davies goes down in a pool of blood, unconscious. They think he's dead. The drummer literally flees the stage thinking he's just killed Dave Davies on stage. Ray Davies chases after him because he's certain that the drummer has just killed his brother. They catch up to him. Like it's a
he could have decapitated him had it gone this way.
Yeah, like it's absolutely crazy. So they end up like telling the police that, oh, that was all part of the show. Like we planned. It's just rock and roll, mate.
Yeah.
So they end up with a slap on the wrist. But the next day, Larry Page, the manager, gets the boys together in a room because they're about to go on a tour of America, and Page just gives them the business. It's like, you guys need to get your shit together. You're going to America. You're going to be the biggest band in the world. We can't have this kind of crap. Does anybody have any questions? And that's when the drummer said, yeah, I need a new cymbal. I got blood on the last one.
It got bent on his fucking skull. It doesn't work anymore.
It just doesn't sound right with the shape of Dave's head in it. Jesus
Christ.
It's wild egos going on in this. Like because England is kind of a small town, and English music is even smaller. But like all of these famous bands from the '60s are all rubbing shoulders and trading members and coming back and forth. One of the singers because Ray Davies never thought of himself as a very good singer. So one of the singers that they brought on and auditioned and apparently played a show with was a Scotsman named Rod Stewart.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and Dave Davies remembers this because I guess his ego isn't quite Ray Davies level, but Ray Davies says he has no recollection of that, which is unfucking-lievable. You're telling me you played a show with Rod Stewart in his early 20s and you don't remember that peacock flaunting around your stage? I don't buy it.
There's no way you don't remember the way he looks or the way he sounds. His voice is so memorable instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently, like other band members have said that Rod Stewart was sort of like not like pushed out because he was never really a member of the band, but it was just like obvious to everybody from watching Ray that Ray felt threatened by Rod Stewart. But it was just like Ray had this idea that if Rod Stewart hangs around, then Rod Stewart is definitely going to take over this band, and Ray didn't want anything to do with that.
Well, I don't think Ray was wrong. I think
I don't think so
that
either.
was a huge possibility, and he knew it.
Mm-hmm. But how awesome would that be? Like not to take anything away from Ray Davies, who I think is an excellent performer and a great singer, but Rod Stewart singing some of those songs, if those two had been able to get along,
yeah,
God, that really could have been something else.
God, this band could have gone so many different ways. It's like the butterfly effect. Little things could have like really shifted this in different directions.
It's madness.
Do you know the story, if we're just going to get into some fun facts, that Dave Davies, when he was like very young, I think like in high school, they were teenagers, he had a girlfriend, he was in love with her, and they got busted having sex in a park, and then she ended up getting pregnant. And so the two families got together, and each family told their own child, like his parents said, she doesn't want anything to do with you anymore, and her parents told her, he doesn't want anything to do with you, and they didn't see each other again. And it broke his heart, and he said it just shifted his entire life. It just fucked him up forever. And it wasn't until 30 years later he was reunited with her and then met his daughter for the first time.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
That's wild, because like we said, like his parents have 8 daughters of their own.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine having that conversation with one of your 2 only sons, knowing that you have 8 daughters of your own? Just like, you need to stay away from this girl. She's pregnant. It's going to ruin your life.
Yeah.
Like, it's wow.
Someone with 10 kids telling someone having kids will ruin your life, or someone with 8 kids. I keep thinking there was 10 kids. It was 8 kids. But I don't know. Maybe she's like, no, listen, don't start now. I've had 8 of you motherfuckers.
Look into my eyes. Look into my gray dead eyes.
I just think that's such a heartbreaking story. Like, you know, when you think someone doesn't love you, and they did love you this whole time, you know, that's going to change the way you think. It's going to make you wild.
Yeah. Well, a similar thing happened to Ray Davies too. He had a relationship with Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders. We need to do a Pretenders episode. I read a little bit about Chrissie Hynde's life, and holy living crap, there's a lot to unpack there. But I couldn't really find, because really I couldn't find any real details of the relationship between Ray Davies and Chrissie Hynde, other than everybody talking about how it was tumultuous or chaotic or ill-advised, or like, there was no real, the only story that I found was very similar to the one that you just told, where they had a child together, and then they broke up, and Chrissie Hynde quickly married the singer from Simple Minds.
Yeah.
And Ray Davies never met his daughter with Chrissie Hynde until she was an adult.
God, that's nuts. That is so nuts. That's so much drama.
Madness. Do you know any of the details of what the Ray Davies Chrissie Hynde relationship really was like?
All I saw was one line. Ray Davies had an affair with Chrissie Hynde. They have a daughter, Natalie. That's the extent of my research.
Yeah, I couldn't find, and like I ended up reading so much about Chrissie Hynde where she's talking about really, really grim details of other relationships in her life, but I couldn't find anything of her talking about Ray Davies, which I thought was weird. Maybe I guess I should have looked harder. I'm sure it's out there.
We'll ask Jeremy, but I think it was Jeremy. Didn't Jeremy say he had like a huge crush on Chrissie Hynde? I think it was her. I don't think I'm thinking about someone else. So if we do a Chrissie Hynde episode, we'll have to do that with Jeremy.
Yeah, deal. The other fun Ray Davies story that apparently goes right to the sort of guy he was. In 1966, He's just been married. He's super depressed. So he's like literally
naturally
in bed, naturally bed. He's in bed. He's drugged to the gills, prescription drugs. And then on St. Patrick's Day, for whatever reason, I think he saw one of his songs on Top of the Pops, and it just made him so mad that he wasn't getting the royalties or whatever that he thought he should be getting. So he put the TV in the oven and then ran down to Tin Pan Alley, the famous London street where all the recording studios are. Got in a fight with Larry Page, like literally punched him in the face, and then went to go find the music publisher and got in a fight with him too. So he just literally up out of bed, time to go kick some ass.
Time to
ruin my most
swing these
professional
knuckles all over the place.
Yes. I got a big bag of knuckles for everyone who's trying to make me rich.
Yeah, I was kind of in and out of watching the documentary, but young bands do this all the time. They weren't paying attention to everything they were signing away, and basically everyone was making money except them. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that was part of the program back then. It's just like, it's the older guy who knows the way the world works. You latch on to these youngsters who have no idea what they're doing. You introduce them to the concert promoters and the venues and everything like that. You guide them and shepherd them, and then you steal all their money.
You take all this stuff. Yes.
That's just how you do it. Well, that is the Kinks, man.
I like it. I'm trying to see if I don't think I had anything more interesting to add to it. So this will be a great place. Let's see how Jeremy Essig connected the basis of the Replacements to the Kinks in this week's 6 Degrees of Jeremy Essig. I'm trying to share my screen. Let's watch it together. Can you see it? Good.
I can see it.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Welcome to 6 Degrees, where this week we have the fairly easy task of connecting Tommy Stinson to the Kinks, which we can do through the backing band used by Ray Davies on his 2013 solo album, Americana. In making this album, Davies used the members of Minneapolis's Jayhawks as his backing band, and that band's singer, Gary Louris, who I should note will definitely come up again in future episodes, as well as the Jayhawks bassist Mark Perlman, also playing a band called Golden Smog, an alt-country supergroup that at times has also featured Replacements drummer Chris Mars and Soul Asylum's Dan Murphy, both of whom have played with Tommy Stinson. So that's it? 2 steps? We're done? Of course not, because at the heart of this commonality shared by a number of bands, feuding brothers. So much like we did last week with soundtracks, let's connect the Kinks to some of music's best-known brothers bands, starting with Van Halen, who covered the Kinks' You Really Got Me on their debut album. And while the brothers Van Halen weren't as well known for their feuding with each other, they certainly were with their other bandmates, including Michael Anthony and Sammy Hagar, who would go on to form Chickenfoot with guitarist Joe Satriani and Chili Peppers drummer Chad Smith. When Smith couldn't tour with the band, they employed session drummer Kenny Aronoff, who has amongst his credits drum work on the solo albums for former CCR frontman and legendary brother feuder John Fogerty. Fogerty's solo albums also feature organ from Tom Petty's Benmont Tench, who would go on to contribute to a number of albums by The Who. The Who also toured with guitarist Paul Newsome, who has frequently played with Noel Gallagher's Flying Birds. That band's namesake, of course, is most famous for his work in Oasis, the band he formed with his famous feuding brother, Liam. Noel Gallagher also appeared on the album Polaris by the North Mississippi All-Stars, a band featuring brothers Luther and Cody Dickinson. Luther would also play in a version of George's most famous feuding brother band, the Black Crowes. And of course, Luther and Cody's father is Jim Dickinson, the legendary producer who includes the Replacements' Pleased to Meet Me among his album credits. That album would be the band's first not to feature guitarist Bob Stinson, who years earlier first put a bass in the hands of his preteen brother, Tommy. So, the Kinks to Van Halen, to John Fogerty, to Oasis, to the Black Crowes, back to the Replacements.
He's amazing.
Incredible. Stop share.
How does he keep it all in his head? That's just amazing.
I have to believe he does some research, but I think like 80% of it's already there. I think he knows the gist of it.
I wouldn't even know enough like how to research. How do you Google all that? Like it has to, like you have to have the groundwork in there. You're just not, or you can't arrive at what he arrives at. Nice work, Jeremy. Really, really nice work.
Always impressive. Super impressive. All right. This week's Dressed Up Like a Douche comes from our buddy Dick Wilkins. I know you saw this one. He said, after decades of enjoying George Thorogood's Down in the Bottom, I just discovered She Got a Battle Vaginal, I'm Too Young to Die, is She Got a Battle Man, I'm Too Young to Die. Live and learn, he says. It makes me.
We need to have Dick on as a guest one day. Dick is great. If you don't know Dick, Dick was in it's hard to describe him. He was in a religious cult for about 20 years and he looks and sounds like it. But my favorite Dick Williams story is he and former guest, John Wessling, are traveling between Houston and LA, and their car breaks down somewhere short of El Paso. So they're going to just spend the night sleeping in the car in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And John can't sleep because obviously it's pretty scary to sleep in the desert. And Dick asks him, like, are you afraid? And John goes, yeah, I kind of am. And Dick goes, why? I'm the scariest thing for miles.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. I didn't know about the cult thing. I need to talk to Dick more.
Yeah, no, it's good. He'll tell you the story. It's fun.
Oh, I love it. So I actually have a guilty pleasure song this week. And it came from listening to a lot of the Kinks. And so the song All Day and All of the Night reminded me of my love for the song by Two Live Crew called One and One. Have you ever heard it, Ben?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. So it's just dirty. You know how Two Live Crew was. They're just filthy.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was so fun to me in, like, I don't know, 8th grade to hear this song because it was just so dirty. And so it starts off like one and one. We're having some fun in the bedroom all day and all of the night. So it gets progressively worked. 2 and 2, 2 and 3, 7 and 7. We went to heaven. 8 and 8. She masturbate in the bedroom all day. So then they get to 9 and 9. She licked my ass in the bedroom. And I was like, ugh, that doesn't even rhyme. But it was the dirtiest song. But I have to, like, it's nostalgia for me. And if I hear the song, I'm going to listen to the whole dirty thing.
Turn that Two Live Crew album up.
All right. God, this was really fun. Next week, though, we will be joined by comedian Paul Varghese, and I'm really excited for this one because we're going to do a really just fun song. We're going to do Outcast, So Fresh, So Clean.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
I can't wait to hear you read those lyrics. I always get
thank you, Jeff Lewis. This was a fun episode. Yes. I can't believe it. I can't believe we did 59 before we got around to the Kinks, man. I really appreciate it. Great suggestion.
So exciting. Thank you, guys. We will see you next week.
Vogue.
Vogue.